So, welcome to the Vision Maker podcast. So, this week we have Tom Flynn, an extraordinary director, filmmaker, cinematographer that I have the pleasure of knowing for quite some time now. And, Tom, why don't you give our audience a bit of an intro to you and your background?
Sure. My name's Tom Flynn. I am mostly a music video director. Been doing this for about 10 years now. Got into it from doing audio engineering, and I kind of switched over at some point and decided to go full on into music video and just video production in general. But yeah, I mean, it's been super fun. I get to work with bands I love, mostly rock bands, metal bands, some pop stuff here and there. I kind of switch it up a little bit, but, I'm just happy I get to pick up a camera and do that for a living. It's pretty fun.
Dude, it's amazing, and honestly, some of the bands you work with are some of these bands I love, and
Hell yeah.
I can't wait to dive into some of those projects that I've seen, especially some recent ones too.
Oh,
Because
cool.
I'm sure like the stories, like I've already heard some stories from you, so it's like those situations are pretty awesome, and I also love the crazy thing is I feel like so many audio engineers have switched to video, especially because of the pandemic, Um, but even before then, like I've noticed so many people have come in contact, and me personally, as an audio engineer background too, yes, going to video. So I'd love to start out with a little bit of your story on how you went from that field into video and how did that start?
Sure. I mean, I kind of always knew my way around a video camera for when I was like back in high school. I was making like little skate videos, snowboard videos with my friends. I had like an old mini DV camera, with the little mini DV tapes. You put them in, and looks like the early 2000s. But I was editing in iMovie, whatever I had my hands on at that time. And I was always putting together these little mini edits from skateboarding, and I always had that little piece of knowledge in my back pocket. But I went to school for audio, and then I started interning and then eventually working at Voodoo Studios with Mike Watts, who is amazing. And, got to work with some really cool bands there. I got to engineer there for maybe 3 or 4 years, like full time, just doing it every single day for like 12 hours a day at least. And it was great, but bands were coming in with these really not so good music videos. That's kind of they were just showing them to us, and we're like, Tom knows his way around the camera. Like, why don't we, give him a shot or whatever? I'm like, yeah, let's see. And I ended up doing like 2 or 3, and I borrowed a friend's T2i, which was like state of the art at the time, I guess. Hilarious. But the camera is still great, honestly. But I borrowed a friend's T2i, went out, like shot it on auto mode. I didn't know anything. I was just like, I know what I want to see, but I don't know any of these settings, just twisting, shutter, speed for exposure. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So went out, shot these videos, edited them, and they didn't turn out half bad. I was kind of like, I still look back on those videos, and like there's little moments in there where I was like, like that was kind of a cool moment. But that kind of was like a little bit of a light bulb moment for me where I was like, maybe I could like slowly work this in. And bands would come in, and I would try to produce engineer them and be like, hey, you need a music video too? And slowly kind of inch my way into that. And just the demand for video like became more than the demand for me as an engineer. And I kind of started realizing like, I'm like, what if I just try to make the switch? What if I just make a hard jump here and just see what happens for a little bit? And yeah, that ended up happening. I ended up just making a full switch into video and just kind of didn't look back. I ended up just like pretty much completely giving up audio engineering. I still do it from time to time for like fun, but not professionally anymore. Just went full time into video and just didn't look back. And it's been pretty fun since.
No, that's awesome. I remember because when we met, it was almost around that time because I met you at Voodoo. My band was in there for a season, and you were an engineer there at the time, and still
Hell yeah.
engineering. And we just crossed paths here and there. But eventually, I started following you on social media, And then just seeing over the years, I remember I really started to notice the switch to video, and just knowing that like you became like the Long Island music video person, at least in the rock and alternative scene out here. And seeing you do for local bands like the Muckrakers, you've done a couple of
Yes,
their videos,
yes.
and seeing that quality and just like the insanity ensuing, because with the rock genre you can get really creative, and it's like you got so many directions you can go with. And then now seeing you rise up to some, I would say very A-list artists in the metal and the rock world, and just to name a few from what I've seen recently, Lamb of God and Buck Cherry, you know. And so it's been phenomenal to see your growth in that, and just to see that like lane, because I think to give you credit, is that music videos is a hard lane to really turn into, I would say, a living, like to make that your core as a videographer, because I've seen some pretty successful videographers struggle with the music video world, because unfortunately, and you know this, it's anyone that's not backed by a label financially, the budgets are very constrained. They're hard, you know, and then you got that big jump now to label, and a lot of these labels have their guy, you know, they're few core people that they are, you know, they're used to. So, you know, and they're pretty tight knit with those corporations, you know. But I saw you break through the fold, and really just in an organic way, it almost felt like. And would you agree with that statement, or would you feel
Yeah, I
like
mean, it's
any pivotal moments you remember with
it's
that?
been like almost 10 years doing music videos, which is kind of crazy to say, but you know, the first few years were pretty slow, honestly, and I think that's like the part that's just easy to miss in all of it, is that, you know, the first 3 to 4 years were kind of just like I wasn't doing like my calendar was not filled. I was just out there trying to do music videos. Maybe I do one a month at best, you know, and that was kind of just, you know, me trying to get my foot in the door and do, you know, whatever I could at the time. And I was working side jobs and stuff just to pay the bills. And then I eventually, you know, made the jump about like 5 or 6 years ago. Like that was maybe like 4 years in, where I was like, all right, like no more like having another job. Like, let me just like let go of everything and just like hustle on music videos, and like, let's see if I can actually do it for a living. Let me see if I can pay my bills doing it. And, you know,
And how did that hustle look like?
just constantly out there reaching out to bands, artists, and just putting out like the best work I possibly could, trying to just stretch every budget and make everything look as cool as I could. And anytime if I got a like a label opportunity, I would just make sure that I put my head down and make sure I could deliver the best possible thing. Because once you get like one label project and one kind of bigger artist, you can use that to pitch to other people, and it becomes kind of this, you know, just
Yeah,
you build a little bit of a reputation
the
based on this.
credibility.
Yeah, you get a little bit of credibility. So, yeah, I mean, it was just been years and years of just compounding work and just networking and getting to know people. So, yeah, a lot of it's who you know for sure. But like, you know, span that over 10 years, you start to get to know a lot of people. And
An interesting thing you just said there was that even in the beginning, when you were saying it was slow, you said maybe you did one a month. So that was like you were probably doing, sounds like 9 to 12 videos a year.
sure, yeah.
And I feel like some people hear that and they're like, you did that many? Because some people may feel like that's even hard for them. But what I'm hearing though is just really like where that hustle is, that like you just kept going. Like you probably asked so many people and got so many like, yeah, we can't do it for that budget, or like we just have no budget, and
Yeah.
you're making those calls. And I'm sure some of those were even like spec jobs, or really like no budget,
Yeah.
no problem, which I
Yeah.
know a lot of us we do in the beginning, because we're just trying to get
For sure.
portfolio pieces out
yeah,
there.
I think like if you're just starting out, doing some free gigs is not a bad thing. I know it has a big stink on it, you know, but
Yeah.
and obviously you don't want to get caught in a rut where everyone just expects you to do free work. Like that's not it's not it either. But I think you have to get your foot in the door somehow. You have to prove that you can
Yeah.
actually do what you say you can do. So I think doing a little bit of free work's not the worst thing in the world if you can afford to do it and you could just get
Yeah.
1 or 2 projects under your belt. And this way you could show that to the next person and be like, hey, look what I could do. And like maybe that person doesn't know that you did those for free. And then they're like, oh, how much do you charge? And you can be like, oh, like X amount. And they might not question it because it looks like it's worth that much because you hustled and you really, put your all into it.
And I think the key takeaway was there is like you said, once you had 1 to 2 projects that you're proud of under your belt, that's when you start going. It's like, hey, oh, I did this video, this and that. I could do something like this for you. Maybe in the beginning, like for $1,000, 1,500, whatever it is, and then understanding who you're talking to. But they see the video and then they're like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we even had a recent conversation, and about my own band. Because I love your work,
that's right.
and I remember just like when you were breaking down the prices for me, I was like, yeah, 100%. That's a great deal, It's like, because the quality is there, But that's like with the credibility, and I think sometimes we're creators, we don't give ourselves enough credit about what's a good spec job.
Oh my God, my first label gig I ever got was off of a free video. I did a video for free, and it put like so much, probably spent money on making this video. I probably lost $500 making this video.
Yeah.
And it somehow got into the hands of this label, and then they gave us like a 5-figure budget to make a video. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what do I do with this? Like, I don't even know. It's like,
I just spent money on this one.
Yeah,
Now
exactly. So like, you never know who's going to see your video and who, looks at that free or smaller budget gig and thinks that it was a lot more because you really put a lot into it. You have to, put a lot of your own mental energy and,
and the fact that you're just pushing it out there with whatever art is, but you're also pushing it out there yourself. And and see, you never know. It's like pushing it out there might not go directly in the hands you're trying to push it in, but it may get into somewhere else. That next thing you never know.
You never know. That's one thing I've totally learned is that you just never know what's coming next. You never know when it's going to be like an insane few months. You never know when like it's just going to dry up for a little bit. Like you just keep going, and that's it. Like that's all you can do. Like a lot of creators can relate to that. I'm sure. It's like some months it's like you can't even find a day for a personal day. And then another month and you're like, I got like maybe like a few projects I could count on my hand at best. And, just going to wait for the next stretch of craziness to happen. Right? And that's just how it goes.
Oh, man. I think I'd love to hear more about now that like, as you grew and everything like that, you've been more recently, you made this big leap into VFX, into like programs like Unreal Engine, which is such it's this whole category.
It's a whole new world.
It's a whole world, and I would love to hear maybe how did that leap even happen? And then also it's like, how's that been like, for you?
So been slowly kind of inching my way into doing a lot of that stuff. Sometimes I'll collaborate with VFX artists and, I've been doing that for years, but there are other times where I just want to like build something myself where I have a very specific vision for, and I never really had the capability to do that. But like this year, I literally bought a completely separate computer in order to do Unreal stuff. Cause I had like my MacBook Pro laptop that like I could fire up Final Cut on and edit videos all day on, but you try to run this like super heavy CPU eating VFX program like Unreal, it's like computer just falls apart. So had to go buy like a tower PC, just to run Unreal. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to invest in this. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to try to just incorporate this into my workflow somehow, some way. And I put like 70 to 100 hours just like learning it. I'm like, I'm just going to like learn this and then figure it out and hope for the best. Hopefully people can dig that, being like worked into some of my projects. And
it shows.
Thanks, man. I've been, slowly kind of implementing it more and more into my workflow. But yeah, I've done like maybe 3 or 4 videos in there now. And I feel like each time is a learning experience. Like it's such a deep program that you have to really spend a lot of time to like figure out all the things you can do, which is pretty exciting because, doing a band performance, like there were times where like, you know, it was getting a little uninspiring with the setups and I wanted to like make something where I'm like, oh man, I wish I could like build this crazy room with all this stuff. And you either didn't have the budget or we just didn't have access to a crazy location like that. And I'm like, well, what if we tried building something crazy in like a program? And that ended up being like this kind of gateway into just this whole other world of being able to creatively express myself in a different way that wasn't like me traditionally just running around with a camera and like just being present on a location, but rather shooting stuff on green screen and then creating all of that in post, which is like a whole different process. And, you know, I don't know if I like it more or less. It's just
Yeah.
another avenue that I get to kind
Another
of
tool in the toolbox.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. Yeah, no, I love it. I remember like seeing those first couple videos. I mean, like if you guys check them out on Instagram and or check out the videos themselves, like the work, I thought it blew me away. Honestly, I thought it was
Thanks,
so
man.
cool. Some of the concepts that you had going in these videos, and to find out like later at a later conversation we were having that it's like, oh yeah, I just learned it for that video, and in the beginning, and I'm like, this is the first try, or I mean, first released try. I
Yeah,
understand
I've
that
done
there
like
goes.
practice runs, but like the probably the one you're referring to is the Moontooth video
Yes,
for Grip
exactly.
on the
That one
Ridge.
with the storm and the fact
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
took them separately, all green screen separately, and then you fused them into it.
Yeah, you know, that gave me more control of putting them in each spot and just kind of spreading them out in like
Yeah.
in a world that I put them in. I shot each band member each on a green screen, just like a standard like 10 by 20 green screen.
And you already had the vision in your mind where you're like trying to match the
Kind of.
lighting or like this and
I
that.
had like sort of an idea. Like
Okay.
I wish I could say it was like very pre-visualized, but like it was like a little bit of shoot and pray, and I just was like, I have to trust that I'm just gonna figure this out. Like there's so many times where that happens more than I'm willing to admit. Where it's like,
I think that happens for most people
yeah, it's
out
like
there.
you're like, all right, like I know I can do this, and like if I light it this way, I could
Yeah.
probably make it happen. So, yeah, I mean, lighting for the scene is definitely helpful, but yeah, that one, like, I was kind of like, I'm just gonna figure this out, and I hope it works.
And it did work. It worked, man.
Thanks.
It was a cool concept, and to hear that like you really just dove into it. I think it also showcases like your passion and commitment to your vision, because of course, like you wouldn't have put in the hours to really get what you're envisioning out if it wasn't for that, you know. And I think that shows in all your work, which
Thanks,
is
thanks.
what translates to your success too.
Oh, thanks. And I mean, there are so many times that I pitch ideas to people that I'm not even sure that I can do them.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like crapping my pants. Like when they accept the idea and they're like, let's do this. I'm like, oh man,
Now I have to do it.
now I actually have to figure this out. Like it kind of freaks me out a little bit. And I regularly just have so much anxiety going into these projects, and people have no idea. They're like, oh, he knows what he's doing. I'm like, man, I freaking hope so. But
Yeah.
but part of that is like exciting because you're
Yeah.
like, all right, now I actually have to figure this out, and then you do it, and you're like, wow, it actually worked out, and you know, you look good. But man, it's like
Gets
there's
into that creative problem solving.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's funny for me. It's like I relate to that so much because there's a part of me that loves a certain level of chaos. I love like shooting. I love being on site. I love like the work that happens in the day. I'm not as big of a fan of the post production and stuff like that. But I love like being in it, directing, being the cinematographer, and just like handling things as they come, because for me it's such a dialogue, you know. It's like things are happening, they're speaking to you, and then you're trying to like, you go in with a plan and the plans already went out the window after the first 5 seconds anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So you're just going as you're figuring it out. And you know, so and I had the experience to kind of watch you in action. Thankfully, like you put out extras for a Lamb of God shoot.
That's right.
Which was, and it was such a cool shoot. And so I went there as an extra, but like seeing you really like run the set. Now, of course, at that point you're inexperienced, you know, and you're directing, but like I kind of saw that like in the moment you were reviewing the footage and then you were getting ideas and you're like, okay, and then you were directing your guys. So what kind of talk about like how you view that dialogue of like the shoot day and handling like these higher profile clients and stuff, and just things that can happen, and like how you view that and how you kind of deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, you try to treat it all the same, like if it's higher profile or if it's somebody else, like you try to treat it all the same. I mean, obviously, you might have a few more nerves on a higher profile shoot, but going in, you always want to be as prepared as possible with some form of a shot list or storyboard or something that you're sticking to for the day. But in my experience, you can only really map out like 75% of it. And then like the rest is like, you're going to be inspired by something that happens on set. And you're like, oh, well, that happened. So we got to get this now. And you have to be open to those changes happening organically on set, because just no matter what video I've ever been on, there's always like one crazy stupid thing that happens that you have to like somehow course correct. And you're like, main actor didn't show up. Like, oh my God, what do I do now? You know what I mean? I got to start calling people up. Like,
Yeah. What was one of the craziest things that you remember?
what is one of the craziest things? We were building a stage that was supposed to be filled with water, and the band was supposed to look like they were like floating and standing on water while they were playing. It was a cool concept, but we had to build like an actual like stage on set out of wood, and like we thought we had it perfectly built, but it started leaking.
How much water was in that thing?
So much water. And like, of course, we're in a warehouse that has like millions of dollars worth of like solar panels or something crazy going on. So like water is literally leaking out of this thing. We're all looking at each other like
hundreds of gallons.
We just start grabbing buckets and just start like emptying buckets like into the street. We're like hoping that nothing gets wet. Thankfully, nothing did. But we had to totally course correct on that one and just be like, all right, they're not standing on water anymore. Let's rearrange this. Let's make it look this way. And then in post, maybe I'll try to do some trickery. Ended up looking great. It ended up working out. And, client wasn't too, bugged by it. But hey, man, things happen sometimes. And you got to be able to roll with it. And you can't be standing there sitting like looking around like, well, sorry, guys, it's game over. It's like, no, you got to figure something out. And you got to just confidently be like, this is what we're doing now. And it's going to look awesome. And we're going to keep moving forward. And that's all you can do, really.
I think that's such a important attitude to have too, especially when you're dealing with clients. Like as long as you give face that like, we got this, they'll for the most part will always be like, okay, because they just have no idea what's happening anyways to begin with.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Sometimes they do too. But I think just having like that like decision making muscle and really working on that and like trying to not sit there and be too like and like just get used to like making decisions and kind of trusting like your gut on a lot of things, and just you could always backpedal something later. Like there have been so many times that I like either came up with an idea on set and then I saw it and I'm like, no, that's terrible. Stop. Just reset. Let me just rethink that. Let's go this way instead. Mm-hmm. And, as long as you can, comfortably admit when something's not good that you came up with, that's, people will respect that too. Cause they're like, all right, he's not just like some egotistical, crazy guy who's just like confidently saying whatever. Like, you got to be able to...
You got to be humble.
Yeah, and like take criticism from people, and like even if it's somebody who's not qualified to say something and they say something and they're like, oh, like, is it weird that reflection's not there in that shot? And like, I'm like, oh yeah, you're actually right. I should probably reset up that shot to make sure that's right. Thank you. Like
100%. Just having good people who are honest around you helps so much. And being open to that, like you said, having that humility, like, because at the end, it's like the goal is to get a great video. Yeah. It's not to boost your own ego.
No, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, my guys around me humble me all the time.
Oh yeah. No. It happens plenty.
Yeah. Especially when you're like, because sometimes when you're directing things and you're being the visionary, it's like you're so macro sometimes that the micro can slip by.
Yeah. Or the other way around. Like it can definitely happen. And having other people around you to kind of have that alternate perspective is definitely important sometimes, for sure.
That's awesome. Is there a particular video that you're really proud about, or anything that you pulled off that you're like, wow, I don't know if I could pull that off again, but like that was A good moment.
I would say, I mean, there's definitely a few, but
Yeah.
one with like a pretty good story to go along with is the Lamb of God, the first Lamb of God video I've done. I did 4 of them.
Yeah.
The first one for Memento Mori, I co-directed with
I
Mike
remember that
Watts,
one.
and we got the call to do that video maybe 7 to 10 days before it had to be shot.
Ooh.
And it had to be shot in Richmond, Virginia. And we had to assemble a crew, go down there, get locations, get all these makeup artists, crazy people, like all in a room together. And we were like, how the heck are we going to do this in like 7 to 10 days? We got to get down there. You know, we were trying to look up flights. It wasn't working out budget wise. We're like, man. So Mike had this crazy idea to rent like a Winnebago and just like take our Long Island crew and throw like 8 of us in a Winnebago and just drive down there with all the gear to make it happen.
I love it.
And I'm like, this is a great idea. And like, we're just like driving down, like chilling, like it was wild. And we didn't have like any location set up at all, to the point that like, we got down there and we had the first scene of the video was supposed to take place in a laundromat. And we're like, all right, we got all the locations. What about the laundromat? Like, all right, how hard is it to find a laundromat in Richmond? Apparently really hard. We were looking around. I'm like, and like we walked into a few and they were like so weird and like not working out. Like there were crazy people like running around and like coming up to us, asking us for like drugs and stuff. I'm like, we're not bringing the band here. This is not happening. So at like 11 p.m., the night before we were shooting, one of the biggest artists I've ever worked with, we had to like email a major label and be like, hey guys, we got to do something different for the first scene. And we literally made it like, thankfully one of the like friends down there had like a tattoo shop.
Okay.
The Synasteria crew, who are awesome. They had a tattoo shop down there that let us use it. And if you look at the first scene of that video where he's like mopping the floors in the tattoo shop, like that was not supposed to be in a tattoo shop. It just ended up, that was just the spot we like had access to at the very last minute. Label was just like, all right, whatever, do your thing. You know, we trust you. Thank God. And, you know, it ended up working out. It ended up looking cooler anyway. It was really cool. But yeah, that was one of those things where like, you wouldn't expect something crazy like that to happen on such like a high profile shoot, but they happen, you know, things like that happen. You just got to be ready to be like, all right, like this is what we're doing now, and just trust that it's all going to be okay. Even if it's not, you make it okay some way.
I think that's a big myth, you know, that they say is like everything that happens on small shoots, they happen on big shoots too.
They just throw money. They throw money at it.
The only difference is just more money to throw at it.
You could throw money at your problems on bigger shoots for sure, but sometimes you can't. You just have to like
sometimes
figure
you
it out.
have a fixed budget and you're still at that limit anyways. So it's like it's not that like proportionally, it's almost the same. You know,
and stuff goes wrong.
Just because you have the money doesn't mean that it all magically doesn't go wrong.
No, yeah, definitely. So just be prepared to do whatever you got to do sometimes.
Well, that's crazy, you know. And again, at the end of the shoot, it looks great. No one knows.
Nobody knows. Yeah,
no one is the wiser. No, that's crazy. And then I think one of your most recent, at least released, I'm sure you're working on plenty of projects right now, but was the Buck Cherry. I think came out like a month ago, right? Yeah, I
did two videos for Buck Cherry. Went out to LA and shot both of them in the same trip. Literally back-to-back days, you know. They wanted 2 videos done back-to-back days. That's something that happens pretty frequently, actually, where it's like a label or somebody is like, hey, we want to shoot 2 videos. Let's just do them back-to-back. The band isn't touring at this time, so we can do them, but they got to be like one day after the other. So you got to be ready to shoot 2 videos back-to-back, locations, everything after is like lined up 2 days in a row. So like that can be its own, you know, craziness sometimes, but yeah, those were fun videos. We did like a crazy face transformation on one of them, and like had people like turning into zombies and stuff. And that was like kind of another one where we pitched the idea, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have to figure this one out.
How'd you pull that one off?
Oh, like it was crazy. We had to like face track with like a mesh on people's faces, and then like insert images and like make sure that they interacted with the mouths properly. I didn't know how to do it at all. I was just like, I could figure this out. it was a lot of figuring out before it was like even close to looking acceptable. But
But you
yeah,
figured it out.
yeah, it was one of those things. It was like, all right, like this is the idea. We got to figure it out. It's like it's either I figure it out or I like spend everything I was gonna make on the video on like somebody who knows how to do it. Hire like some crazy VFX artist, or I figure it out myself and just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Hey, that's definitely the name of the game for sure.
yeah.
Oh no, that's crazy. Oh no, and that one was part of the one that just came out, or is that the one that's
So
coming
there
out
were
next?
two that just like came out.
Both of them came out, right?
Yeah. There
Okay,
was
I
the
saw
one
the
with
one.
the one with like the fire in the background.
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
the
Yeah.
one.
So
Yeah.
that was day 2. We shot
Okay.
that. That was an LED wall background that we
Oh,
had.
okay, nice.
And that was cool. You know, that was just like a
was-
raw
yeah.
performance video. Buck Cherry looking like Buck Cherry.
Yeah.
Cool as hell.
Same
Rocking out.
energy, you know?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, that one was definitely easier to pull off than the first one, I'd say.
Yeah.
First one we had to like rent out a mansion, get like a whole bunch of people there for a party, a bunch of extras, had to do the face warping stuff. So like it was a much larger production. We had like at least 70 to 100 people there for the shoot. So like it was a lot going on. And that's another thing that is super hard to get used to is when you have a larger production, like trying to figure out like what amount of energy you're going to spend on like wrangling people to get them ready for a shot, or you know, focusing on the monitor. Oh, did I miss something with the lighting?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to kind of divide yourself with that stuff, and that's where it can become stressful, where it's like you're focusing way more on like the logistical preparation of a shot and like making sure everything's right with like the people.
Yeah.
And then you're not paying attention to the camera. And
So
I mean,
for a shoot like that, would you ever get like maybe like an AD and stuff
yes,
like that?
I mean that's definitely where I was going with it. On the Buck Cherry shoot, we had a larger crew,
Yeah.
so those things were able to be outsourced to other people on set who, you know, it's like, this is your job. Make sure all the people show up. It's like there's a front gate that keeps locking. Make sure they can keep getting into that gate. Make sure the parking's okay. We're not blocking any driveways. We
Yeah.
don't get the cops called. Like there's so many little details like that like you can easily get sidetracked trying to just like
Handle all
basically
these little
patch
problems.
all the holes in the boat the whole time instead of trying to drive the ship, you know? So
Yeah.
like that's it's really good. That's where you start to learn that you have to have more people on set for things.
100%.
Like starting out, like I would just like solo shoot
Everything.
and edit everything, and like you can do that on smaller scale projects, but when you have a lot of people running around on a set and you have you have makeup artists, you have set designers, you have you know, people, and then you have people from the label there looking, like you got to have multiple people that you can rely on, like a team that can step in and help you out.
No, 100%, 100%. And no, I mean, it's just great. I just keep thinking of different examples of different videos and stuff.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear kind of like with the projects now, because I know like you've been getting definitely more and more referrals and different things like that at your level. Like, do you find yourself now kind of more pick and choosing projects or, you know, as like kind of like having that liberty? Because I know it's like at a certain point, you definitely get more of that
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
I'm definitely more of a yes man than I seem, I guess. I like just taking on a whole range of projects. I'd
Nice.
say in the music video world, I'm pretty open to a lot of different projects. I don't say no very often. You know, I like variety. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I like to kind of just, you know, if there's a project where something seems like unsafe or like just crazy, like I'll try to redirect it. And if that doesn't work, then obviously it's not going to work out. But like, it's so rare that I ever say like just no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, there are projects outside of music video work where somebody's like, hey, can you like film my daughter's Sweet 16 or something, where I'd be like, I'm not sure.
Don't blame me on that one.
Yeah, like I could send you to somebody who would be more, you know, into that. So I guess, you know, over the years, I've definitely gotten it to where it's really just music videos for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take on little things here and there outside of music videos, but I try to keep my focus where, you know,
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and that's doing music videos. And that's, you know, if I could fill up my calendar doing music videos, why not? You know, it's fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. Personally, one of my favorite things to shoot as well, music videos. And, not as many as yours under your belt. But I love one thing that I personally always loved about it is the creative freedom involved. It's a lot like films, because that's what they are. For me, that's what they are. They're little films based around the story of the song, or whatever concept the artist wants to portray. Because sometimes they don't have to really go along with the lyrics, but like definitely, you got that looseness, with the story, and I know you're very involved with the concept and with directing, really, and DPing. So, and those are your main fortes. I would say, I'd love to hear if there was any like one you think was particularly unique, or one that stood out to you in the sense of where the story really connected.
Yeah, I mean, I love shooting storylines for music videos. That's like so much fun, because you're basically making like short films that go along with the videos, and like that's cool, because I don't know if I'd ever really get into doing like feature films. Like, not to say that I totally wouldn't, but I guess I'm too ADD for it. I like just doing like one video and then being like, all right, that one's done. Like, let me start with something fresh. Like, I was the same way when I was writing songs. I'd finish like half a song, throw it out, and start a new one. But I mean, I like videos that are challenging, and sometimes an artist will come to me, like the band Covet, Yvette Young. Yes. She'll come to me with some crazy idea, and like I'm like, I don't know if we can do it, but let's try. Yeah. She, was like, hey, why don't we try like some stop motion animation, and like we're jumping out of planes and we're playing our instruments. I'm like, that sounds insane. I don't know if I'm even the guy for that. And she was like, no, you could do it. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me try. Let me see what I could do. And we sat there for like days. She would like draw the clouds and like draw like 4 different clouds. I would like lock the camera on a tripod, shoot those 4 clouds, and like import them and like position them. And then like we had to like green screen the band members and make them look like drawings too. And she drew the plane, and I had to like animate the plane in like manually. It was kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
So much that like there were birds like flapping their wings. Like we had to draw the birds in different like hand flapping positions,
and then getting
like
them in the right sequence.
Yeah, and then we just like sequence them and loop them. And I'm like, oh, we can do this. Yeah, slowly but surely we gained more confidence as we went. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy. I haven't done a stop motion video since, but it's just like sometimes you gotta prove, and that's a label project. So like I had no business saying yes to that. You know what I mean? Like there was no reason like where I was like, yeah, I can do that. I was like, I just said I could do it, and then just like figured it out. And like that's so much of these bigger projects sometimes. It's just like you just have to like throw yourself to the wolves and just be like, all right, like, I either figure it out or what. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't know. Like,
Richard Branson has a great quote like that. It's like, say yes and then figure it out after the fact.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously prepare yourself the best you can going in, but like,
of course,
I feel like if I would have said no, that I'm not the guy for that, I would have completely closed that door and probably never would have tried it, because I don't know, stop motion, that's like a whole different craft. Same with a lot of the VFX stuff that I've been experimenting with. It's like, I feel like, inside it's like, everyone has a little bit of that imposter syndrome of like,
100%.
And like, kind of rightfully so, if you don't have any experience in doing something like on a certain scale or like some idea. So like, understandable that you would want to say like, no, I'm not the person. But like what if you just said like, yeah, I could do it, and then you just try it and maybe you figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think with like our medium, it's creative. And I feel like what I always tell people, like, especially when it comes to like live sound and different things like that, is like 2 number 1 skills. First is Tetris. Can you pack up a van as tightly as possible? And because cool. Half the time we're packing up equipment in places that don't fit. But the second thing is troubleshooting. Can you creatively problem solve? Because it's not about when. It's not about if something goes wrong. It's when it goes wrong. It's not about if you can. It's like if you can do something. It's about how can you do it. Like that's because most of the time it's like because it's creative. It's something in your mind, and now you have to make it a reality. And your discipline is about learning the tools that so you can create create the thing that's in your head out in the real world, and we do it on a visual medium, you know. But it's never like a cookie cutter thing, because then it's not an original idea, you know. It's
Yeah.
like you can get inspo, and that's a whole thing, but that's for me, like, using inspiration is still creative, because it's like you don't have a step by step of how they made it.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure it out yourself, and you're like using what you know, and then maybe trying to figure out what you need to learn, what you need to know, so you can do it. And it really shows.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's so many ideas that like you can make them look bigger than they should have looked if you just spent more time on the creative aspect of it. I had a client one time who wanted it to look like they were playing inside of like a cube made of like tubes. And like we didn't have the budget for like to
real
make like a
cube.
cube of tubes. We just didn't have it. And like I feel like those are more common these days. Like you could see those and like rent those out. But this was like maybe 5 years ago when like the tubes were kind of like pretty new, honestly.
Yeah,
and
they're
like
pretty expensive.
yeah, they're really expensive. So like we only had like the smaller ones, and he wanted to look like he was playing inside of it. I'm like, oh man, how do we do this? So we set up just a square of tubes in the background, and then in the foreground, we basically positioned them with stands. So the camera was static. We positioned 4 other tubes like going toward them as like the leading lines going toward the tubes. But like we basically like did a forced perspective where like those were like 10 feet back, but the tubes closer to the camera were like 3 feet away. And we basically just like traced like lines that made it look like they were going like 20 feet, but just the way they were positioned, they were angled properly where like you believe that they were playing inside of a cube. If you moved the camera like 3 inches, like it would have broke the illusion, it would have been done for. But the fact that we were able to like make it look like the set design was like insanely huge, but with just like small 4-foot tubes, you can get creative with smaller, you know,
That's
objects and stuff.
Such an amazing example of like creative problem solving, because literally you're forcing perspective using the combination of your focal length, the distance of the positioning.
Yeah.
So like just from this one locked off angle, it seems seamless. It's like Hollywood does it all the time with miniatures.
Yeah, for sure. You still see that stuff
Yeah,
sometimes.
I mean,
for
you
sure.
look at the Charlie Chaplin stuff where they overlay things on windows. And
That
stuff.
stuff's incredible. If you ever look at the stuff they did back
The
in like the
practical effects that
20s or
they did?
40s, whatever it was, like some of that stuff is still cooler than what they're doing today.
100%. You
know?
ever see like there was one, I've seen it a couple of times now, but I thought it was so insane.
The one
where
where
it's
he's
like
skating close to the edge. Yeah, I know.
close to the edge.
I already
It's
knew
like
you were going to talk
almost
about
like an infinite room.
That
Yeah.
was insane because that was like he made it so that, and that was another one where if you move the camera just slightly, it would break the illusion.
Completely.
Yeah, it was like a matte painting or something like that.
Yeah, it was a
or-
matte painting
Yeah.
on like one section of this plexiglass kind
Right.
of, probably was solid glass, because I
Yeah.
don't think they really had plexiglass that clear back then.
Yeah.
So it was probably solid glass. They matte painted it, and then they had the full set behind it, and so they're filming through this glass, but it's
Right.
like perfectly lined up with the edge.
I love that.
And then he's just like, I mean,
Yeah, well, like in the
such
old
a great performer too.
the old Star Wars films, they would do matte painting of like all like the army soldiers, like
Yeah.
all the super wide shots. A lot of times it's just like a static shot of like
Mm-hmm.
a painting, and like it just worked.
And it had so much life to the
Yeah.
film. Like you
Nah,
would
it's
think it's
crazy.
like,
I mean,
yeah.
nowadays you can do it with VFX. You could do set extensions. That's really
Yeah.
popular now, where you have an artist or somebody in the foreground, then there's green screen with like track markers, and if the camera's moving, you can build like a huge set that just keeps going behind them, and that's kind of a way to.
One effect I remember a while ago that I saw from one of your videos that I was like, I absolutely love this. This is so cool. Was the Van Gogh, when he went into the painting, and then everyone in the video
Hell
gets
yeah.
this Van Gogh.
That was for Julian Cairns, and I actually collaborated with Kyle Monroe, who's an awesome VFX artist. Because like I was trying to figure it out, I was like, how are we doing like painting and stuff like that? And he had this way of like doing like, not frame by frame, but he was able to kind of do it like that, where, you know, he was able to take each frame, apply some sort of effect to it, and then just sequence it. And I'm like, that looks insane. So like we had to, instead of having an actual painting they were touching, we basically just like went out into the world, like say there was a brick wall they were walking up to, we just put a big green screen in front of the brick wall and then just like completely fabricated whatever they were touching on the wall so that they could like go into the paintings. So we had to like
interesting.
bring green screen backdrops with us everywhere we
Everywhere.
went into like the woods and stuff. It was pretty crazy, but yeah, I mean, it goes to show what you can do with very minimal stuff. Like
Yeah.
I don't think we even like the
you
lighting
even-
was terrible
I was
outside.
gonna say, like, how'd you do the lighting
No,
for
it
the
was
green
terrible.
screen?
I mean, like, you know, realistically, on a hard sun day, you should have like some sort of floppies or
Yeah,
anything
some
like to
reflectors or
soften up the light. And nope, we just literally went out there, green screen blowing in the wind, just wishing for the best. And yeah, I'm sure the key job was just a nightmare, but you know,
Hey, they pulled it off.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember thinking, I just saw that. I was like, yo, this is magic. This is awesome. Like, it's so cool. And
It's
then
always fun
learn
when-
even like the things on the wall. You know,
Yeah.
I was thinking that you were putting green screen like in the paintings or like in that specific spot. But
and like we probably could have, honestly. There are so many times like we do something and we go back and we're like, this would have been so much easier if we just did this. Like I think one time there was like an entire like living room of windows, and I had like 4 different green screen blankets hanging outside those windows, and we were just gonna key out each one of the windows and put like a city behind it. And then after the fact, we're like, like this just would have been way easier if we just green screened the whole thing and forgot about the window frames and
have you
just
ever had
figured something
someone
out.
just walk in when you're editing a project and they look like, oh, that's so cool. Did you just do this and this? And then you're like listening, you're like, that sounds so easy. He's right.
I mean, I've had people sit on edits before where I'm struggling and I hate like when they're looking over my shoulder while I'm like trying to fix, like when it's like a regular edit where there's no VFX, like yeah,
Yeah.
sit in on the edit, no problem. But like
Or
anytime,
even see like a draft or something like
yeah,
that.
but like if I'm doing VFX, like people don't realize the amount of just experimenting that
Oh,
goes on with that.
100%.
And sometimes they're like, oh, that doesn't look good. And I'm like, I know it doesn't look good. Give me like 30 more tries and then maybe it'll start to look good. And
Yeah,
then we
exactly.
could talk, you know, like, but
I'm just trying to get the basic idea.
yeah, I
right
gotta
now,
just
like, bro.
experiment, throw stuff at the wall until it sticks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times with like VFX stuff is just, you just have to keep working it until eventually it starts to look like
I mean,
something.
a lot of people who are like not intimately involved in this world,
Yeah.
they don't understand like how unprocessed things really are, you know, before you get the final product.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people, because a lot of people kind of look at our world now from a content creator standpoint, from a, you know, iPhone creative to, you know, because
Yeah.
that does so much basic processing for you.
Yeah.
That they kind of like think it's like, oh, if you have a high-end camera, it's like a high-end version of this. Like it's already graded and different. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you pay a lot, but you get the raw most information, but it looks the worst.
Right out of camera.
Right out of camera. And it's like, and then because I've had that with clients where, you know, I
Well,
have
they're
to
seeing like the raw image and they're like, oh, why is it
it's like,
not?
oh, can I look at it immediately? Or like, I was
right.
like, oh, I need to double check. I'm like, hey, I just want to triple check that the composition is in the ballpark of where we're heading with this, you know, or
Yeah.
something like that, you know? And sometimes they're like, why does it look like that? And you're like,
Yeah. I had a client ask me for raw footage recently.
Oh, man.
And like, I was like, do I just send them the raw like red files and just like have them not be able to open them, and then when they do, they're just like, why does it look washed out and like weird?
Yeah, and weird,
I'm
and
like,
they
you know
don't
what?
understand
I'm
anything.
gonna skip this whole part. I'm just gonna stretch all these clips out and just color all of them
Yeah.
and just export it as one big thing and be like, here's everything colored, nice and
Nice and
neatly
nice, yeah.
packaged for you. So
and I've learned that the hard way with a few clients in the very beginning. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, and then you realize they really have zero idea, and then and it's like, okay, so that's where like I explain is like, for me, like sometimes we do a wedding every once in a blue moon now,
Sure.
usually for people that are personal connections,
right.
and sometimes they'll ask to say, oh, can we get the raw footage too? And then that's where I
Like, what do I do with this?
Well, now
what is this?
what I do now is I impose a fee because it's like we're gonna have to process it.
You gotta
because
color
you're
it.
not gonna do anything with this
Yeah.
raw, like washed out footage.
And what are you
know?
gonna give them, like a folder of audio to try to sync up to like?
Yeah, exactly. It's like why does none of this sound accurate?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like no, it's like okay, well, and it's just having that like grace, and it's like knowing that it's like we can't ever send like things. It's like I have to at least get it to a ballpark where it looks decent. Just
It's different if it's like an agency or somebody who like
Exact.
actually knows
Oh
what
yeah,
they're
who's
getting.
in the industry,
Yeah,
who knows.
if they're like, hey, give us the raw footage, we know what we're looking at. We're
We
just
know
gonna
what we're
repurpose it
asking
for
right now. Yeah.
that's a different ask. But yeah,
No, when it's
somebody who doesn't know what they're doing with the footage, yeah, you got to give them something that looks pretty clean always.
yeah, I think that was like a thing that's like you could really save yourself a big headache from that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially from reactions, and you have to explain, and and they don't understand. Well, we got a little sidetracked on that one.
No worries. I mean, I feel like I don't know a ton about what type of work you do most. I know we started chatting about it before, but like, what is it that you kind of find yourself doing a lot?
So right now we're diving pretty like niching down, I would say, into the arts and cultural institution space with museums and some nonprofits and such. So we do a lot of work for some East End museums here right now, like the Parish and the Watermill Museum, and now, but we're looking towards expanding that. So it's like a lot of artist interviews, live streams of talks and different things like that. I love working with artists. And we're trying to do a couple different things outside of that. So like that's one venture that's like with the production side. We have the podcast, of course, and trying to build up the studio in itself to be in more of a product commercial space and a photo shoot space, but really develop the product shoots in here. And outside of that, I mean, in the beginning, I think like anybody, we just started doing a little bit of
Just
everything.
the phone rings and you say yes.
Yes, exactly.
You're like, can you film my dog taking a crap?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Great. $50. I'll do it. I'll be there tomorrow. In the beginning, I heard a great quote. It says like, in the beginning, you do for what you can get. Then you start to do it for what it costs. You budget it out.
Yeah.
And then you do it for the value of the outcome, the ROI. Typically, in more commercial sense, it's usually ROI. So, and those are like the 3 stages that a lot of people go through. And I found it true for us. Like in the beginning, we were definitely in whatever we can get. We did real estate, we did weddings, we did music videos, we did little small business commercials, different things like that. But now that we've entered into the cost and really like expanding that, figuring out budgets and building into like those 3 arenas, kind of now that we're doing separating our social medias and stuff and really trying to niche down those areas.
Yeah, I feel like the more you can niche down, niche. I feel like I never say that word right, and I'm just never going
it's like
to.
GIF or GIF.
GIF or GIF. GIF, I thought would be like GIFF, right? But it's GIF. I don't know. Never mind. But anyway, as you niche down, you tend to get happier because like you're just doing stuff that you want to do that's like fulfilling to you, and you're not like begrudgingly doing something because like you need the money or something like that. Because I feel like at first, like you're trying to just fill up your calendar as much as you can. Because like, yes, you're happy to be doing it full time, but like you're just trying to fill out your calendar so you can pay your bills and like yes, you're obviously grateful to
like
be
a scarcity mindset the whole time.
You're like, all right, like people are calling me, yes, and you just say yes to everything so you can feed yourself. But then once that phase passes and you're like, okay, like I have a filled calendar every month. Like, let me try to just start niching down and doing the projects that I really, really want to do. And I think that's a lot of people's stories. Like they start off by doing every type of video work possible.
But then they kind of figure out what you like. And then it's like, okay, this is where I'm gonna be. And then it's funny when you do that, the budgets grow, and then you don't have to do as many projects at once. And it's
well, you get better at it. So obviously, you can demand more.
And the client to vendor relationship, I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it, but that's what I'm saying. Client to vendor relationship tends to be calmer and especially in that range. I'm sure you found it that like some of the higher end, maybe not 100% of the time, but for most of the time, like from what I've seen, with the bigger budgets and when you're dealing with like bigger corporations, they're more like, you're the expert. This is what we want. We trust you to do it. Just have it to us. They see it and they're like, oh, that's great. Thank you. Here's your money.
Yeah. Well, on that level, it's like they assume a certain level of professionalism by reaching out to you. And like they trust you more. They do.
Versus direct to client at the lower budget. and it's not like anybody's fault. It's that they're trying to get as much as they can out of the budget.
Sure,
you
yeah.
know,
I mean, that's
on both sides. You
yeah,
know?
that's pretty common.
And I just remember a big realization I had was so many. If my calendar is filled with so many of these lower end, you know, I don't have the space on my calendar to accept the bigger things that are coming. So I actually have to leave. I had to start leaving availability for the jobs I do want and stop saying yes to the jobs that I'm like, okay, these are no longer serving me. I don't want to continue them.
See, that sounds like the smart way to do it. Whereas, like, what I did was like the really unhealthy way to do it, which is
Just
basically
like pack it on even more.
just like create so much work that I'm drowning, and I'm just like, how do I survive? Phone's ringing like, where's my project? Where's my project? And I'm like, and then like I just get crazy, and then eventually implode at some point. But no, yeah, like that sounds like the right way to do it. And I feel like me, I just was just like, yes, 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 yes to the bigger one, yes, 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 and then like I just like will sometimes, and it still happens from time to time. Like
I
I'll
imploded too.
yeah,
I drowned too.
I think
That's
we
how I
all
learned.
experience some sort of like creative overload. It's not even like the creative overload. It's just like you bite off way more than you could chew, and then you're just trying to figure it out, and you just figure it out.
You figure
know?
it out.
What are
You
you
get
gonna
on top of it, and you learn for the future. And
Yeah.
you move a little more smooth sailing the next time until you reach the next hurdle.
Oh man, yeah. Like I think that's just as much of a challenge as like when you don't have enough work. That's scary, but like when you have too much work and like you said yes to too many things in like a small bracket of time, that could be scary too because you're like,
Oh yeah.
I'm just counting down the time until like somebody starts like getting a little bit like, hey, where's my thing? And I'm like,
And then that's where the priority
right.
shift.
You're like, oh my god, I really got to like work my face off to try to get this all done, but you figure it out.
Yeah. You get it through, and I think we're both very familiar with that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
but it's fun, like
is.
at the end of the day, it's like I have to remind myself like this is fun. Like I've had stupid jobs that like I hated, and I have friends that went to school and they still don't like the career they ended up in. They really don't. So like I think if you're doing this as a career, like by default you have to like step back sometimes and just be like I get to do this for a living. That's insane. Like I can't believe it sometimes that I get to. And I have to remind myself of that whenever I get overwhelmed and stressed out on set or like with an edit or something, and I'm like ready to throw my computer out the window or something. I got to just like step back and be like, hey man, I get to do this I get to like play around with cameras and like bands and stuff for a living. That's not normal. So have to, count your blessings on that.
Just being in a creative field in general is just such a blessing, but we have to have grace with ourselves because we tend to be our worst, like on ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And even if every once in a while you'll get a really harassy client. That's part of the game, but
in any industry, I think,
Yeah. But that's the exception usually. I find it that but most of the time we're just as hard as on ourselves. So it's times like, wait, you know what? It's like, what do I want to do? I want to do this at a bigger scale, but it's this, and I'm already doing it. So technically, I'm living it right now.
Oh yeah, all the time I beat myself up and just kind of get crazy over, the little things of like, oh, I'm not good enough at this. This person's better. Like, why am I not at this point? Like, it's easy to do that because it's just, any person who's creatively driven obviously wants to keep growing, and we all want it to happen like immediately, but we have to really just appreciate the fact that our time's up.
Apparently.
There we go, baby.
Can you close that up? Thank you.
No, it's all good, man.
No worries. Yeah,
should we wrap it up?
Well, I'll have one more. We'll keep going for a little bit.
Whatever you guys want to do. Yeah, I didn't know if that was like...
that wasn't supposed to happen.
You're done.
Yeah, no, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I think the audio settings got reset on the computer. That's okay.
Worries.
Daryl will edit this out.
Thought there was going to be like an eject button. I'd just get tossed onto the curb or something.
Straight through the ceiling, right?
Yep.
But no, I think I had two more questions really that I wanted to dive in. I would love to hear your perspective on still. And one was really So you've had your experience in each space of the whole video process. Like you said, there's still videos you're doing from beginning to end, but I really see your bread and butter really big in the deep director of photography and just plain director, you know. And do you what do you find yourself like really if you like gravitating towards, like say when you do get
Like
those,
which position?
like the as far as those different positions go, like, you know, because sometimes when you grow, like you have that liberty to expand the decision. And of course you could be a Zack Snyder and just be like, yeah, I'm director, but I'm holding the camera half the time, or if not most of
Yeah.
the time, you know. Or you could be like, you know, I really want to just focus on the vision and, you know, work with a DP that I trust. So
Yeah, I know guys who, you know, as they grew, they kind of handed off the DP position to somebody else, and I, I I have a hard time doing that. I don't know if it's just that like I love holding the camera. It's really fun to me, and like I love finding the frame and just getting stuff right. And it's not to say I would never hand that position off. I think there's like if I found somebody that I really clicked with who like truly understood my vision the way that like I didn't have to like verbalize every little thing. I could just lean on them and be like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I would be open to working with
entertain
another.
it. You would
I would
entertain.
entertain the idea. I just feel like I I I don't know. Maybe I'm a control freak or something. I just don't know what it is. I love having the camera in my hand. That's like fun for me. Part of the fun is just like running around. Like sometimes I'll go handheld and like, you know, that's hard to kind of teach, like kind of being in the right spot and like finding the frame. And like a lot of the times I'm like coming up with weird stuff on the fly that like how could I even verbalize like on a downbeat, I'll like fling the camera around in some like weird way that like I don't know if it's gonna work, but like
It's the instinct.
yeah, it's
There's
like
an
I'm like I feel like I'm like dying on my own sword if it doesn't work. Whereas like if like somebody else was DPing for me, they might not take that creative risk the same
plus.
way.
Who
I don't
else
know.
has your segue skills?
Dude, the segways, that's so much fun to me. I love riding the Segway around. That was an idea I saw like 10 years ago, or like not even 10 years ago, but like I saw some guy on one of like the smaller ones, like the little Swagway scooters or whatever. And I was like, that's a great idea. And I started using one of those, but like the wheels weren't big enough. So I would like get caught on stuff and trip. And then I went out and just bought like one of the bigger Segways.
Yeah.
And man, it's so much fun because like I love shooting handheld, but like it's not always steady. So
Yeah,
like
that ninja walk's just
if
not good enough.
Yeah, if you get on some wheels and go handheld, you kind of get the best of both worlds because like it's smooth, but I also get the freedom to like creatively frame things. Whereas like with a gimbal or something, like I feel like the gimbal is never as fast as I want it to be to reframe something, and you're always kind of like. I didn't quite catch the composition I wanted there. I feel like a lot of times with gimbals, like you're kind of just like capturing things as they happen, but you're not able to frame them up as specifically. Whereas like if I want to keep somebody in this third of the frame and I want them looking and I want this angle to hit right, but I don't want too much looking room on this side, I could be very like specific with that holding the camera.
Yeah.
I'm sure I probably, you know, with enough experience with a gimbal, I probably could get similar results, but I don't know. I'm just a
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, with the gimbal in the sense that making those intuitive micro adjustments, it's like there is a secondary response because the gimbal
Yeah.
is just committed mechanically. Like you can do it like handheld like this, and they like I'm very used to using a gimbal now. So
Yeah.
like I find myself when I'm in a high paced environment, I snap on that sports mode.
Yeah.
And I just lock into like the positioning, so it just kind of it flows a little better with my hand movements.
Got it. Okay.
You know, but it's you know, but there is you can't
There's a
replace.
lag, you know, it's like
there's not you can't replace this like you know,
yeah,
and
like
the
I'll
fact
whip pan fast to something, whereas with the gimbal, I'm like, ooh, it like kind of like you have to like
Yeah.
pre-think out some of those
or
moves.
over exaggerate it, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if you don't hit it on the mark, then it's just like, well, it
But
just
like
went
the
out.
thing I don't fully get with gimbals that I'm sure I would with experience is like a lot of times it's like it's less about the start of the movement, but like ending the movement right.
Yeah.
Like I'll be at the end of my movement and then like it just goes too far and I'm like, God damn, like
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't want
definitely
it
more
to
of
go
an
there.
experience thing for
Yeah,
sure.
and I'm
But
sure.
like, yeah, the segue for me though, it's like for me, it's like a Tom Flynn signature because it's like you're really like one of the few people that I see really like all the time is on it, and I'm just like
It's fun.
it's just great because it really you get these great like almost steady cam type shots
Yeah,
with
it's more similar to a steady cam because there's like a human element to it.
Yeah.
And like I'll just like crouch down low and scoot down and get something real low that like
Yeah, you're
would
almost like
require.
holding it to the floor. I remember that
Yeah.
Lamb of God. You got that real nice sweeping
Yeah, like
moment with the air.
something that would have taken like 10 minutes of re-rigging something up to like really get that right angle. I can just kind of scoop in and get what I want.
Yeah.
And I do like that responsiveness of being able to use a segue and just get in there and film what I need to get, like pretty much as I think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, that's such a cool tool, in it too, and a lot of people I think just, they're going with the latest and greatest, newest thing, which
Yeah.
is like with gimbals and stuff like that. But like, you can never like replace also like exploring the more traditional ways of doing this and getting creative with it. It's
Yeah.
like a combination like that definitely adds to
I
your
try
style.
to not stick to one thing too much though, because I
Yeah.
feel like there are people out there that like they find the thing they like and a lot of things are just
Oh, yeah, that's
gimbal
just
or
that.
it's like that. Sometimes I'll shoot a music video just on a tripod, just lock down tripod the whole video just to switch it up so I'm not just like the handheld guy or the steady cam guy.
Yeah.
You always got to be switching it up a little bit or else you'll find yourself just repeating coverage patterns over and over again, and then it becomes too it's just not as inspiring if you're not
yeah.
switching it up all the time.
I think that's as a personal, as a creative, like,
Yeah.
it's like you don't want it to become mundane.
Yeah.
It's like now when you do things so repetitive, it's like, okay, this is turning into a job.
It can be, you gotta keep it fresh this way. When you go home and look at the footage, like you're excited, you're not like, I already kind of know what like this is gonna be.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, one great, because I think I love the example of your story is like, you never went to school for film or any of this. Like, so like a lot of us in this room, we're self-taught.
Yeah.
We went to the school of the internet and hard knocks of like trying things and seeing how they didn't work and then finding out why they didn't work and then learning how to make it work next time or make it work in the moment,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think you need film school. I mean, I think it's great for the people that do go there. A lot of times they'll make good connections and get good jobs out of it.
networking's great.
Yeah, like
Good source for that.
I have friends that went to film school and like I kind of brought them onto a few sets this way I could be like, what am I doing wrong? And they'd be like, and it's mostly stuff like not setting up a C-stand right or like just kind of like
little
little
or
things
not
that,
calling things right or
like
terminology.
you'll get more industry terms right, I guess. But I found just working on sets is the best way to learn. Find
Experience.
somebody who you respect and go work on their set, just volunteer or something and just watch what they do. Be a set of hands and just
Yeah.
like help them set up lights. How do they like to light stuff? How do they like to set up their scenes? And just like start making notes of what they're doing and start applying it slowly to your work. And I think that's probably the best way to learn.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like we've gone through so many like great points like that. One of the last things I would say is like, I love to hear from all of our guests. It's like if you could go back and give your past self, your beginning self, some advice to help them out starting out, or to some other people who are just trying to start out in music videos or just in filmmaking in general. It's like, hey, I want to make this passion more of a living. It's like, what would be something that you feel would be valuable for them to take away?
Don't worry about the money for a long time. Just really focus on getting good at what you do. Work alongside people you trust, people who are going to help you grow. Don't be afraid to step outside of what you think you can do. Like I was saying before, it's like just say yes to stuff and try to figure it out. Don't limit yourself. Don't feel like you can't do something just because you haven't done it before. There are so many things that if you just work on them as you're doing them, you can figure them out. And then, just really don't worry about the money for a long time because it's going to limit you. If you try to put, if you take all these budgets that you're given, even if it's like $500 and you're trying to put most of that into your pocket, what money do you have to make the video look great? You should be focusing on making great videos with most of the budget, pocketing as little as you possibly can. And, this way your videos look higher budget. This way, when people reach out to you, they assume you're working with bigger budgets because you put the majority of the budgets that you had into your video production. So now people are just looking at your work like, oh, like, I mean, this has to be an X amount production. And then they
Yeah.
reach out to you and they'll just assume you're working at a higher level because you've basically put the entire money of the production into the production and instead of paying yourself. And the more you can do that, the more you'll see yourself leveling up and working with bigger clients.
I think that's a phenomenal. I think one thing I've heard, a big concept that I think people are starting to get, but they really need to see, having a job is potentially not a livelihood, but a tool to sponsor what you really want to do.
Yeah.
Use that, live off of that, and if you can, like you were saying, use the budget you're getting for that video. If anything, just reinvest that completely into the work. Like
Yeah.
if you can't, like if you're able to sponsor yourself, that you don't need it, but you have, like, it's a 9 to 5, so you have every day after 5 to build something, especially in a creative field. It's like, that's what I did a long time for the beginning. Like
Yeah.
mostly everything I would make was 100% reinvested
Yeah.
for as much as I can, because it's like, and a lot in the same is like what you're saying. So definitely, like, don't be afraid to sponsor yourself. This doesn't have to be
Yeah.
something you go all in right in the
No,
beginning
I
to
didn't.
make
I
it
didn't
work.
go full time right away. I was
Yeah.
working little side jobs for a while. It just can't be a side job that takes so much out of you that you
Yeah.
don't have the energy to put into video production.
100%.
It's like I've worked stupid jobs like security and stuff like that, just like brainless jobs that I could just sit there and like just be like, oh, I can't wait to go out and shoot some videos, and then boom, you get out, go out and shoot videos. But you have a little bit of money in your pocket. You're not relying so much on making money on every single project. You're focusing on just building your craft, and then as you move up the ladder, you'll get, the money will come for sure, and then you can go full time.
Oh, 100%. Well, thank you so much, Tom. This has been such a great conversation.
Yeah,
and I feel
likewise,
like
man.
I can keep going.
Hell yeah. No, this is
we-
awesome, man. Appreciate you. This is a great time, man.
Awesome, brother. So, as always, you can find us at Vision Maker Podcast, Vision Maker Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and
MySpace.
Yes, MySpace. Vero, everywhere that wherever the socials are at this time period that you're watching this. And also, Tom, where can people find you, find your work?
Go to my Instagram. That's kind of where I post up most of my stuff. It's tom.j.flynn. That's FLYNN. Yeah, I post up a lot of my work there. Friend me on Facebook. I might see it. I might not, but not as active on there. But yeah, Instagram's where I post most of my stuff up. And yeah,
No, that's
kinda it.
great. Okay. Well, thank you so much again. Of
course.
And have a great day.
Yeah, you too, man. Hey.
Peace.
Yeah, thanks, man. Later.